two major talking points in Lost Ark is raids and classes, and really they're codependent on one another. Without good classes, the raid experience would be pretty flat and unenjoyable. But without raids, you really wouldn't be able to experience the class for what it is. I mean, we'd be stuck with Guardian raids as our end game, and I would quit. When it comes to roadmaps, major announcements, and even low on, those are the two main points that everybody's looking forward to, is classes and raid. Classes are a topic that can unify people and also greatly divide them. This can be seen on any major release, and if you ever looked at the forums back then, or Discord, or Reddit, people would be happy with that one class is released, and people would be really angry that the other one isn't. Obviously, the most recent one is Slayer and Aeromancer. Lost Ark is designed around you having multiple and playing multiple characters. Each week you can designate 6 characters to earn gold from Legion raids. Once upon a time in KR, there actually was no character limit, and as you can guess, the economy got really out of hand when everybody had like 20 alts running raids, just getting so much gold. And of course, the game is designed around alts. That's why you get the free burn transfer when you complete it. That's why we have knowledge transfer. That's why we have power passes. That's why we have events. They push it on you, and that's by design. So when Lost Ark first came out, every content creator and everybody talked about how you're going to have one main and 5 alts. You're going to funnel all your materials from those 5 alts over to your main. It's a very viable method to play the game, and you can even experience all the content with it. So Saiwo, he did a video about a free-to-play / casual player who was 1568 around the time of Brawl hard mode release. He only had 2 alts, one was like in the 1400s and one was in the 1300s, and the other ones were just throwaway. With a roster level of only 107, he was still capable of doing all the content in the game. Now my other example is actually a friend who used to play the game. He's a Sorceress One Trick who played about 5 weeks into Clown, and in those 5 weeks into Clown, he was already ready for a 3-4 on Brawl Normal. Now there are pros and cons that come with being a One Trick, because unlike the other example, he had 5 alt Sorks. These Sorks were doing Argos, Vaultin Hard, and Vikas Normal every week for gold. And of course, anything else those characters did was all pure profit, because he didn't hone them. And there are some other perks to being a One Trick. The first being that your entire roster can be using the same 2 books, so you don't really have to buy a ton of books. As long as you're fine shoving your gems into your roster storage every time you switch, you can use the same gems across your entire roster. And obviously, since you're spending so much time on that one class, you're probably going to be pretty good at it, or at least you have a lot of time to practice it. But obviously, there are some downfalls. The first major one is going to be pretty obvious, which is burnout. When you're playing with this mindset for max efficiency, you're not doing it for fun. So these 5 characters are going to feel like a chore and something you have to do, while just feeling like an inferior version of your main, because, well, they are. And I think this is the main reason why you don't see that many One Tricks anymore, and a lot of them have quit, just like my friend. If you could run those 18 weekly raids on a single character, he would come back, and so would a lot of other people who just don't want to do alts. However, that would have a big impact on the economy and just against the general game design that Smilegate clearly does not want. Now, instead of having one main in 5 alts, I think the majority of players use 6 mains. I am one of those people. And it's actually the players like me with a lot of mains that encounter honing problems. To this day, my highest item level character is 1560. So my item level is lower than the guy who has 1 main and 2 alts. Because since I have 6 characters I'm trying to push, it makes it a lot harder to really push one character. Yes, people will generally push one character at a time to a certain item level, but you're still pushing them all over time as opposed to having a character dedicated to farming. So if you have 6 characters doing Brawl hard mode, I'm sorry, but those are all main. And since I think this type of player is the most common, it kind of explains why we have so many people talking about how hard it is to hone. It's hard for people to not want to be efficient, and also the FOMO of doing content week 1, may it be on a single character or your entire roster. When you stop honing a character, you just leave it there to do your content daily and weekly. We call that parking. There's a lot of different opinions on where you should park your characters. At the current state of the game, I would say there's about 3 major parking spots: 1475, 1490, and if you're feeling lucky, 1540. The main factors would be raw raid gold, what you get from chaos dungeons, what you get from guardian raids. Those are the 3 main factors that alts are going to bring to the table. So with the help of this chaos dungeon and guardian raid chart I found on Reddit, I put the username in there. I'm not going to try to say it. I calculated the average amount of blue and red stones, leaf stones, and also just your raid gold combined for the week. So with very little RNG involved, these are kind of the static numbers you can see. And as you can see, every major push isn't actually that much of a gold. Yes, it's about 3,000 gold a week per tier. It certainly will add up over time, but there's something else even more important than just the raw gold. And this is the tripods and accessory drops. Starting off with the relics, they're pretty low even at 1475. But even then, you could still get a nice drop that could really net you a lot of gold. Because even though ancient accessories do exist, relics have a very good value in the marketplace. The truth about ancient accessories is they're only really needed for people who have a 9/7 rock who want to make a 5x3x2 build. Beyond that, nobody really needs a 6x3 accessory on every slot. And unlike the legendary to relic jump, there is no huge stat differences between relic to ancient. And this is really what makes 1475 pretty valuable still, is because you get a good amount of materials still, and also you have a pretty decent chance of getting some relics. Now 1490 is the second one. This is where you step up to the next tier of materials, so you can just transfer that over to your main via roster storage instead of having to sell and buy. But not only are you going to get more relic accessories, more tripods, but now you can start getting amulets, which if you know anything about amulets, people are going to go through a lot trying to get perfect rolls, and you can upgrade a relic into an ancient. And if you park at 1490, you're going to get a free 1520 boost basically. Because if you're running Brel 1-2, you're going to slowly get Brel mats, and you're going to be able to craft the relic gear, which will boost your item level on conversion. And then additionally, you'll also be set to have that gear if you decide to push your character up suddenly. Now the last major parking spot is going to be 1540. This is like the hopium / copium kind of parking spot, because the only reason why you're pushing this high is because you believe that you're going to get that juicer ancient drop. Because like I said earlier, ancient accessories is really only for somebody who's trying to push a 5x3x2 build. This is the max build that you can get in Lost Ark currently. This is your final build, and people will pay a lot of gold. Somebody will pay that because this is their final build. They don't have to buy anything after that. So yes, you could become extremely rich off of one single drop. That could be your entire return on investment and then some. But of course, it's all RNG and unreliable. So next I want to take a moment to talk about the cost of pushing. My two examples are pushing from 1475 to 1490, which you can see on the left. On the right, it's going to be pushing from 1490 gear that you converted over to Brel gear, then juicing it up to 1540. So the value of the mats is based on NA East on the day I made this video, which is 5323. So from 1475 to 1490, we're looking at a little over 200k in raw gold. And that's with you buying every material, not silver. And then again on the right, it's the push to 1540, which is going to cost you almost 500k gold. The best advice I can give you is to never FOMO push any character. You should be doing your chaos dungeons, you should be doing your guardian raids, you should be doing all your unas. For characters you intend to push, you should be using Leapstone quests to get those. Shards and Leapstones you get from Chaos Dungeon can't be traded, and that's why those are so expensive. So you want to farm those yourself. Because if you farm everything yourself, that 200k cost is only really going to cost you 43k as long as you get the materials. And getting to these item levels is going to be more and more achievable over time. Because they keep on raising the ceiling of which we can hone to and where content is, the floor for which these events and power passes keep on going up. Because I think a lot of people who don't play Lost Ark, or people who got into Lost Ark, they think you have to hardcore play 6 characters. But we have many examples of players who do not need to do that. But it is pretty true that you do have to play some alts to a degree, even if it is just that lower stuff to make base gold. That is if you want to keep up with the content. Now you can play the game at your own rate, but the community generally makes it hard for people to catch up because they want people with titles, people with re-clears and stuff like that to join their party. And that's what makes a lot of the FOMO so tempting for newer players, or people who just want to do the content week 1 so they can do it with people who are still learning the content. As to week 2, people are already expecting titles, horns, re-clears and all that kind of stuff. Let me know how you play your roster and what you think the best number of characters for gold is.